What on God's green candles is going on? My God, Bitcoin has literally rallied from 77,000 almost 82K in the blink of one eye. Not two eyes, one eye. The stock market is crushing, and NASDAQ up 9%. Seems like Rocco and I went to the back to look at the new set furniture. We come back and then NASDAQ is up 9%. I don't understand what the hell's going on. We got everything broken down for you on today's show. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about treasury yields. What does that mean for the markets? But then again, the show I had planned earlier is kind of out the door because we're seeing some bullish news here on the tariff war. Is that subsiding? We're going to talk about that. We also have a very special guest. It's been a very long time since this man has blessed us with his presence and knowledge as none other than Caleb Franzen. Will be joining us today in about 30 minutes to give his thoughts on the current market conditions. And so, what a wild time to be alive. You know, just funny. I'll show you what I'm laughing at in a second. But let's take a peek at this. I'm assuming this is what caused the rally, right? Donald Trump had announced he will issue a 90-day pause on tariff, except for China. Sorry, China. You can't participate in the pause.
No, you're
actually, not only are you not participating in the pause, but we're going to tack on another 21% in tariffs.
I told you.
That's
crazy.
Pretty funny. Okay, so as I mentioned, the Dow Jones up 2,300 points, my friends. We're talking trillions of dollars, okay? S&P up 7%. Again,
boom.
Trillions of dollars. And look at that NASDAQ. The most correlated index to crypto and Bitcoin is up, again, it was down to 7, is up almost 9% again. The markets are telling you we'll be good once we get some certainty. Is Trump going to look at this and say, you know what? So, it's funny. Rocco and I were having this conversation prior. And then, look, I'm not a poli-sci expert. I'm not a geopolitical expert. I'm not a tariff expert. But I'm sitting here, I'm saying, I get why he's doing what he's doing. But why not, go to the allies first and say, look, you guys have been treating us unfairly. We need a better deal. Get them all on board and then go after the number one exporting economy in the world. The number 2 economy in the world, which is China. And instead, he took an Uzi gun and just went to town on every single country. NASDAQ approaching 10% in the green. My God, what a day. Again, this post here, President Trump raises tariffs on China to 121%. Take a look at this. This was what I was laughing at earlier. Trump declares this is a great time to buy. This was yesterday or this morning. Interesting. Okay, so we get, you know what? Before I get into this and before I forget, I want to give a big thank you. Today's show is brought to you by stake.us. And so you guys know we've been partnering with them for about 3 to 4 weeks now. They are the number 1 social casino in the entire world, legal in the U.S. if you use the .us address, or if you're overseas, you can do stake.com. Either way, you can use the link in our description. You'll get some kickback there as well. And then whether you enjoy just kind of like social playing, some scratch-off tickets, especially if you're in Vegas, you can't really get those. But my big thing is poker tournaments, especially sit-and-go poker tournaments, where it's just 9 people, winner take all. Instead of driving all the way down to the casino, which they don't really do that anymore, you can play online. You can even invite your friends to play with you. And then all that stake cash you earn for free, you can redeem it for crypto and do whatever you want with it. Hopefully you did that, bought the dip, and now you're sitting on a nice percentage gain here. But it's interesting to me that we're sitting here, and when we talk about these KOLs and the cabals, and they tell their insiders and their friends and family, hey, this is going to happen. Let's front run it. They front run it, and then retail gets in, and they dump on them, and then it's a big pump and no rug pull. Donald Trump literally told the entirety of the U.S. population that was listening, hey, something's going to happen. You should probably buy some stocks. You should probably buy some crypto and Bitcoin. And lo and behold, the pause is here, right? The pause for everyone except China. Sorry, China. And so it's just funny. You know, Eric Trump comes on a month ago and says, buy ETH now. You can thank me later. It tanks. And then the president of the United States says, now is a good time to buy. And less than 24 hours later, we get the pause. Markets are absolutely exploding. And man, so, you know, it's funny. If he wouldn't have launched his damn meme coin, I think people would take it more seriously when it comes to stuff like this. But either way, man. So this is obviously good news. I think people like me understand the idea of tariffs, understand what you want to do. You want to kind of, you want to negotiate favorable deals for your citizens, which is great. Yeah, that's what we want to do. We run a business. We try to negotiate favorable deals for us, for the partners, for our employees, and for the business as a whole. So I get it. But I think everyone kind of had a question of the way he was going about it. Is he being too aggressive, too fast? We saw what happened with the stock market, the bond market. What is this?
It just came out.
Oh, he just posted that?
Yeah, that's like...
Can you throw that up on the screen, Rocco?
Yeah.
So Rocco has a post from Trump's Truth Social.
I don't know if I can...
Talking about, his...
I don't know if I can push it out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Keep going and see if we can find out.
So we'll get back to that in a second. BTC, $81,413. Now, I would say just proceed with a little bit of caution, right? We still are essentially in a trade war with the number one exporter, the number two economy in the world. And so be careful. Don't go ham. Don't go all in. Should have been DCAing on the way down. And these are the reasons why, because you just never know what can happen at any given time when you have someone like Donald Trump sitting in the Oval Office. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. I do want to share, this is pretty funny. So this is Trump since crashing the global economy. Look at, well, what's Trump been up to? I guess we can negotiate with this country. Nope, we're going to go negotiate with Thailand. Oh, nope, they're not ready. We're going to negotiate with France. And nope, we're hitting a brick wall there in China. Nope, and yeah. Also, the next funny video I want to show you. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you sold that the bull market is back? I don't know if my co-host was here today. First thing he would say is, he'd come in. Bull market is back, baby. Bull market is back. I would just proceed with caution.
He already super chat.
We don't want to get too high. We also don't want to get too low. When everyone's panicking, we tell you guys, don't get too low. And when everything's euphoric, we try to tell you guys, don't get too euphoric, right? Play in the middle. You'll make better financial decisions. But obviously, 8.5. So just checking on the market, seeing if anything crazy is going on. So 2,000 points on the Dow, 6% up on the S&P, 8% on the NASDAQ. The Russell's up 6 and the VIX is down. This is the important thing right here. The VIX, the volatility index, is down 30%. This is what we want to see. We saw a massive spike in the VIX. The other thing we saw a massive spike in, which kind of set off the alarms of all the macroeconomists, was the U.S. Treasury yields, okay? So treasuries are absolutely collapsing, meaning the coupon rate's going up. The percentage is going up, which is not good for the country that is issuing the debt because they have to pay more in interest to the people buying it, right? It's like a credit card. Do I want to borrow money at 20% interest or do I want to borrow money at 4% interest? Obviously, you want to borrow money at 4% interest. And so the thing that had every single person, myself included, was the 10-year. We were celebrating when we dropped below 4%, but this thing rallied to a high of 4.5% on the 10-year. Now, the 10-year is extremely important because it has the most amount of influence on mortgage rates. And if people can't buy homes or they can't refinance, they got a bunch of cash sitting in the walls of their home and they want to pull it out, but they can't because interest rates are high. Obviously, it's a net negative for retail, but across the board, the 3-month, 1-year, 2-year, 5, 10, and 30-year are all up, as you can see, 0.15%. The biggest one, though, is the 5-year, the 2-year up 4.6%. Approaching that 4% level again. I'll get Caleb's thoughts on what he thinks about the treasury markets and what's going on here. But we take a look at BTC. We can dig into a chart here on Bitcoin. Seeing a little bit of a pullback. Nothing really. We did get to a wick high of 81.7, just below 81,000. We go to the 1-hour chart. Massive spike in volume. And this was actually going to set up for a really nice inverse head and shoulders, but we didn't quite get there. Let's take a look at money flow. You see everything has exploded on market cipher B. We got a almost immediate crossover on money flow gray. VWAP is growing, expanding. We got that crossover. We look like we're about to retest that zero line again, but a straight moonshot to the upside. These are all great indicators for momentum and volume. RSI, stochastic oscillator, also putting up. That's on the 1 hour. We look at more of the micro for BTC, obviously seeing a little bit of a pullback at $81,700. Again, this could be setting up for a really nice bull flag here, depending on how prices go, and obviously how this thing pans out. But if we do get a bull flag that plays out here, that push to the upside, 83.3 is a level to look out for. If you're coming from just a technical analysis standpoint, we take a look at market cipher B. As you can see, kind of flip-flopping here on the VWAP. We did get a crossover to the downside on the 5 minute, which is seen as bearish. We also got a red dot. Look at the expansion of the momentum wave. I mean, I can't remember the last time we saw momentum waves get that high. I can assume again, we're on the 5 minute chart, but still. 30 minute chart, last thing we'll look at, we are seeing a little bit of a potential reversal candle here. We do have another 15 minutes to close, but this would be a top signal in the very short term. And so just keep that one thing in mind for BTC, depending on how this candle closes. If it closes just like it is now, this would essentially be a shooting star or an inverse hammer or candle here at the top of this uptrend. But massive spike in volume, which is what you want to see. And so we're keeping our eye on BTC. Now, the question then becomes, what now moving forward? I think we can all sit here and agree that the future of the market, of the stock market, the Bitcoin, crypto, all the markets, is dependent on the evolving and current trade war we're in. What is Trump going to say? What is Trump going to do? The 90-day pause, is he going to extend that out to China? Are we really going into a trade war? And then which eventually will turn into a currency war with China, which again, yesterday I kind of explained the benefits that a currency or a trade war with China would have on Bitcoin. And there's a lot of positives that can come out of it, including people looking to get away from the currency devaluation that we can expect from China as the economy starts to shrink, because they export about 20% of their goods to the United States. We are their biggest consumer. And so that is one thing to keep in mind. That is one ace we have in our back pocket. Let's take a peek. I'm hoping that Ethereum actually is doing something. Okay. No, ETH up 6% on the hour. Where's my friend Robin at? Is he still super chatting?
He's in the chat. Yes, he's on the chat.
What a cheap, bro. Why are you so cheap, man? Anyways, $2. Sorry, Robin. I'm not reading them. You know what, Rocco? Actually put them up there. Maybe I'll read them.
Okay, right here.
I'm going all in. Trump slump 2025 is over. How did I know he was going to say something like that? Again, you can listen to Rob. You can listen to me. Pump your brakes. Calm down. Let's see what happens. Obviously, this is very bullish. We saw a glimpse of this Monday when there was rumors of a 30-day pause, or people thought that we were not going to go ahead with the tariffs. That is currently in play. And so, yeah, I see Rusty Bot saying, why did Trump cave? I don't know if he caved. I think it was a smart move. When you're playing with people's lives in the economy, it's a very losing argument to sit there and say, yeah, I could have done it, but I didn't want to because I'm not backing down. I think that's pretty dumb. You go at it aggressive. You should have done it differently in the first place, but you're here now. 90-day pause, save face, give people time to negotiate, give the markets time to relax, because those swings we've seen over the last 7 to 10 days have been absolutely wild. Again, ETH up 6.4% on the 1 hour. That is a massive hourly move for Ethereum, sitting at $1,591. Still can't believe this thing got to, I think, sub 1,400. XRP above $2 yet again. Hopefully our Tron long is finally, I think, even. We were down like 25, 30%. We're looking to make some money there. We still have that position open. We'll check on that maybe a little later in the show. But XRP officially over $2. That big news that came from the XRP and Ripple camp yesterday in regard to Hidden Road and the infrastructure play that XRP is making. But really, all risk-on assets are exploding. Solana up 10% in the last 1 hour. You know what is actually probably a better Rocco is a crypto bubbles.
There we go.
Crypto bubbles. Let's look on the hour. Who are the biggest gainers? Fartcoin, 24% in the last 1 hour. Wow. Ondo, crushing it. And I want you to take a look. What are the projects, maybe outside of Fartcoin, that are really rallying? Ondo, RWA. Hedera, RWA. Athena, institutional DeFi. SWI, Layer 1. Radium, not sure why that's pumping so hard. AAVE, XRP, these are quality projects that are all rallying. And so the way I look at it is, to me, and, I was on a Mario Nafal Spaces yesterday, and, Samson Mao was in there and Dennis Porter was in there, and we were kind of having a conversation about what level crash does this feel like? Does this feel like a 2008 level crash where everything tanked, or does this feel like a 2020 crash where it's more of an acute reason, an acute crash to where we can point to and say, that is exactly why it crashed. No one saw it coming. And once it's over, we can resume our daily operations and go in the way that we were going, which was up and to the right. And so I'm in the latter camp. I'm in the camp of this is a 2020 style fall off of a literal cliff. And we can point to the tariffs and say this is exactly why. And you look at the market behavior, what it did on Monday, what it's doing today, what it did last week. They are afraid. They don't like the uncertainty. And so that is where we are. And over the last 1 day, Hyperliquid up 27.4%, Fartcoin 31.9%, Ondo 20%, Solana seeing a decent move up 12.7% on the 24-hour. Now over the last week, very little in the green, but there it is again, Fartcoin. Can you imagine going to your financial advisor? Sir, it says you have $3 million in wealth, but I don't see any S&P or stocks. Yeah, I got it on the Fartcoin guy. Anyways, Rocco, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on this market crash? Do you think it's a 2020 level crash, or you think it's a 2008 level crash where it's just rotten on the inside and there's just too much going on? What are your thoughts on what we're seeing now?
No, I didn't feel it, at least for me. I don't know. Maybe I got so used to, let me see if I can change it to a bigger.
Maybe I used to watch Trump.
There we go. Yeah, not just used to. I mean, I didn't feel it was a big crash. Of course, I really believe in the DCN formula. For me, it was more that. DCN, I never stopped. I don't go big in any project when there is either going up or down. I don't sell a lot out neither. So that's what I do. For me, I didn't feel it. I know some people that maybe started recently, or they have maybe a bigger backs than I, but I don't even look at my portfolio. I just refuse to do that. So I just, and the news, if the fundamentals don't change, I don't understand why you're freaking out.
Yeah.
If you are in a plane here for 10, 20 years down on the road, I think that you just need to understand where you hold, and that's it. That should be enough for you. But then if you're freaking out, start to sell, panics, and or if you're using leverage and you don't know how to do it, that's on you. But if you know where you're holding, you should be fine. That's
awesome. Rocco, do me a favor.
Yeah.
There was a prompt on YouTube Studio.
And because you played the video from the
movie.
That's the movie. That's whatever.
Can't do anything fun on YouTube, man. BS.
That's copyright. That's
all right. Well, we'll move forward either way. Okay, let's take one more peek at BTC. And guys, I'll be kind of keeping my eye on the charts. And so could we see another big move? I'm also going to, this literally happened right before we came in to do the show. Okay, so let's see. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, this was Trump's strategy all along. You might even say he goaded China into a bad position. He told me strategy on Sunday. What strategy? To the stock market to lose $7 trillion and then he say, oh, psych, we're going to wait. Interesting statement there. That's very weird. And I'm just kind of scrolling through any breaking news. Oh, this is what Rocco was trying to tell me. Okay. So this is what we were trying to get up here earlier. So here is Trump's statement on China. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world markets, I am hereby raising the tariff charge to China by the United States to 125% effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the U.S., including Departments of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form, I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
We got attention for sure.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, how long is this thing going to last? What does it look like for the next 90 days? I guess we can, extrapolate and talk about it. I don't think you're going to see a massive amount of money being poured into the markets. I still think we look at what the Fed's going to do. And speaking of the Fed, we take a look. We are now at 37% that the CME believes the Fed's going to cut rates in May. And that date, my friends, is April 29th. So 20 days away, 21 days away, what are we going to see? CME believes 36%. Now, I know this is still landing in the favor of no rate cuts, do nothing. But these numbers typically have been in the 96% or higher. And so to see an almost split down the middle, 35-65, very interesting. We'll see what the Fed does. The one thing we know they're going to keep their eye on is those treasury yields. And again, we'll see what they do, but it's very interesting. Speaking of Scott Besson here, he says Wall Street has grown wealthier for 4 decades. So for the next 4 years, it's Main Street's turn. And so what he's referring to is, look, they said, we don't care about the stock market, Wall Street, which is funny because in his first term, he definitely cared about the stock market. And they're more worried about onshoring, manufacturing, bringing businesses here, bringing capital into the United States. So interesting to see how this thing will play out, but I expect some more volatility. But again, the way I look at it is I think there's going to be less volatility to the downside and more to the upside because I think the Band-Aid has been ripped off. And so the whole China thing, everyone was worried, what are they going to do with China? Because that can have the most implications on the globe, the 2 largest economies in a trade war with each other. And so by putting the 90-day pause, I think you should have included China too. I don't know what the plan is there. I'm not in those circles or those rooms with those conversations. But very interesting to see. I think you'll see the markets start to stabilize. I think you'll see the markets gain back the overreactive losses that they took, meaning the massive sell-offs, which I have said has been an overreaction for the most part. I think we'll get those back. I think Bitcoin trades between $85,000 and $90,000 over the next 3 months. As we'll get news, we've negotiated with this country, no tariffs. This country, 10% tariffs. This country, free trade. So you're going to start seeing more good news come out of this 90-day pause. And then the China stuff on the side, we'll see what happens there. But volatile times.
I want to add something else, maybe a thought.
Yeah.
It's also the other country that perhaps went to China and say, okay, we don't want to trade with the United States at the tariff. And China say, I don't care. And so the idea was to steer the pot to see who was with, who align it to. And so now this country go back now to the United States and they plan to do tariff. And they see there is maybe no other option to go to China, Russia, or other markets. So maybe it was a good plan. Who knows? I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, there can be another point of view.
Everyone keeps saying Trump's over here playing 4D chess. I try to play regular chess, and I'm pretty bad at it. So I don't even know how I do in 4D chess. I lost to a bot at beginner level yesterday. It was bad.
Well, that's way more advanced than now. AI can do pretty much anything you want.
I used to play chess a lot with my father. If you're new here, say hello. I want to give you guys a little bit of a shout out. We do have Caleb joining us here in a little bit. I'm just taking a peek at the chat. See even if I see any new people, also highlighting some potential good comments here. Gus with 2 U's said, what happened? Trump happened. And his fingers on his phone shooting out truths and X posts. XX Coconut Monkey said Trump didn't cave. He paused for all the countries that came to the table. And that's something that Bill Ackman has been calling on for, I think, the last week and a half, 10 days. say, hey, look, do a 30, 60, or 90-day pause. And so all I know is my initial thoughts was, why go in there with a fully automatic assault rifle and just spray everywhere? Go in strategically. Go to the allies first. Get them on your side.
I don't know how you will done. I mean, it's not like you're gonna. China is not an open country. You know, if you go do business there, they don't respect the contract. If you have a problem, they don't respect the court. So there is no strategic with the
I guess I was
kind of country.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my reference was more to, if you're going to go after your allies too, handle them first, right? Because it's going to be a little rocky, right? You have the one friend where, you know, you guys exchange favors for each other, and I don't know, you guys have been best friends, and all of a sudden the other friend starts saying, hey, look, all those times I bought you lunch, yeah, you're gonna have to pay me back for that plus interest.
I don't know. If you play poker, you know, that's you can go in with a bluff halfway. You gotta do all the way in. I mean, if you go, okay, Tariff, yes, my friend, no, but to you, yes. I think that was just a power move. I don't know. That was my.
Although I have been in a couple bluff scenarios, and I've had to, yeah, I was losing too much money. It was bad. All right. Again, guys, I'm excited to have our guest join us. So Caleb will be joining us in a little bit here. You know, it's been a long time. We had him on, a year and a half ago. Such great insight. And so we'll bring him on in a second, but I do want to go over a couple more things. I want to share, this was pretty interesting. This was posted by Sasha Hodder. VanEck confirms that China and Russia are settling energy trades in Bitcoin. De-dollarization is here. The U.S. should immediately end sanctions on Russia or give its game over, for the USD. And again, something we talked about yesterday. I'm not sitting here saying I am a super genius in macroeconomics and I knew this was coming. It was just point A to point B. It made the most amount of sense. If you're going to sanction countries and you're going to have tariffs, they still got to sell the products they make. They still got to buy the products the other countries are selling. And how are you going to do that? And there's only one. You can try gold, but good luck getting it from point A to point B. The other option is Bitcoin and crypto and blockchain. And that is exactly what's been going on. As you can see here from Matthew Siegel, the head of digital asset research at VanEck, that interest is no longer theoretical. China and Russia have reportedly begun settling some energy transactions in Bitcoin and other digital assets. Bolivia has announced plans to import electricity using crypto, and French energy utility EDF is exploring whether it can mine Bitcoin with surplus electricity currently exported to Germany. These are early signs that Bitcoin is evolving from a speculative asset into a functional monetary tool, particularly in economies looking to bypass the dollar and reduce exposure to U.S.-led financial systems. Very interesting. And then we'll go over that here in a little bit. But without further ado, I want to give a warm welcome to guest here, Sin City Crypto. Caleb Franzen is joining us from Cubic Analytics. Caleb, you're on the big screen, brother. You made it, man.
Up, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Thank you so much for joining me. You know, I was trying to go through your X posts to find some stuff from back then. You post a lot of stuff on X, man, and it's a lot of good stuff. And you know, you had a post up, and I remember this was about 2 years ago. You were blowing the horn on the perma bulls and saying, "Look, you guys, you know, we're in a bull market. You guys are being bearish." Everyone was like, nah, we're going down. We're chopping sideways, whatever. And in fact, we ended up having a bull market. And then recently, I don't know if it was about 7 to 10 days ago, you were like, we're in a bear market and everyone's pushing back on you. And so what are your thoughts on the market? And also, I'd love to get your take on what we just saw in macro and in Bitcoin with Trump's announcement. What's kind of, you know, how are you taking all this information?
Yeah, first of all, good to be here, man. Really looking forward to this, David. So excited to bring some alpha to folks. Yeah, look, you know, as you kind of correctly pointed out, in 2023 and 2024, I flipped super bullish after being a bear in 2022. And so, look, I think one of my superpowers as an investor, as a trader, is my ability to adapt, my ability to look at objective data, to share that objective data clearly, and then to change my bias, right? And so whether someone's a perma bull or a perma bear, I think that's a terrible way to live life. And so, you know, as investors, I think we should be using truth to our advantage rather than digging our head in the sand and ignoring objective data. And so from that standpoint, as I look at market conditions today, I had a lot of key criteria for the stock market break decisively into downtrend dynamics. So I came out about 2 weeks ago, officially being outright bearish on stocks. And so during that time, we've seen the S&P 500 fall another double-digit %, right? So clearly that bias has worked. I have invalidation criteria for that. None of that criteria, by the way, for me flipping from defensive to outright bearish had anything to do with tariffs, with the Fed, with inflation, with stagflation, with anything at all, with Trump, right? Whoever's in the White House, I really don't care. It all comes down solely to price action. And so when I was seeing that price action deteriorate as significantly as it did, I think you just have to wake up and acknowledge that, right? So with Bitcoin, I think at the very least, the bear market criteria has not officially triggered yet. I think we're getting very close, that line in the sand. We almost crossed it just a few days ago. And thankfully, we've been able to rebound off that level and accelerate back to the upside. And now, look, I just got back from a dinner. I'm here in Montenegro, which is where I live for part of the year. And I'm seeing Bitcoin trading back above 81,000. I'm like, hey, right? Something good must have actually finally happened.
What is going on?
Come to find out, the big guy in the big house decided to shift a little bit of the tariff policy here, quite a bit.
Yeah.
So this is I know I'm going on such a diatribe here,
please,
but this is
the
thing that makes this. This is the thing that makes this market environment so challenging. Is it really does like him, hate him, disagree with him, agree with him, whatever. Again, this isn't a political statement, but the market unequivocally is hinging to every single thing that he's saying, that Scott Besson is saying, that Howard Lutnick is saying. And again, that's going to make things very difficult. So if you have a thesis one way or another, it can be immediately invalidated from a fundamental perspective. And that's why for me, I'm just going to say, look, I'm really not that smart. I might wear cool glasses. They are prescription. But I promise you, I'm really not that smart, So I just pay attention to what price action is telling me and I interpret it as is.
Yeah. Caleb, I look back at, last Friday, Saturday, and then this Monday, and you see the wild swings. I think the Kobesi letter posted yesterday that yesterday's swing in the stock market was the largest ever in a single day. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I didn't fact check or look back on the data for that one. But I look at, you had a post and I guess I can throw it on the computer, on the screen here. It said, in every single Bitcoin bear market, aside from the flash crash during COVID, Bitcoin's weekly RSI has fallen below 30. If this is truly the start of a bear market for Bitcoin along with equities, then the current weekly RSI of 42 indicates that more pain is coming down the pipe. Now, the question that I have kind of posed to some people, friends, is, do you believe this kind of crash we've seen is more of like a 2020 level acute crash, or do you think there's some rotten underneath the hood in the bond market, in the equities market? We know there's a crap load of money that has to be refinanced. What's your take on that? And what if the RSI just starts heading back up again because people are not afraid of tariffs? Are you ready to pivot from we're in a bear market to, hey, maybe that was just a big 30% drawdown? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an interesting point, right? And so really easy invalidation criteria. If Bitcoin's RSI also starts to trend higher, then we're clearly not in a bear market, right? So it's really that simple. And so, I'm posing it as if this truly is the start of a bear market for Bitcoin, right? So, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm just going to keep trying to use the data as effectively as I can and just try to set some expectations here. If this is a bear market, we should at minimum expect for Bitcoin's weekly RSI to get below 30. What does that mean in terms of price? Where does that going to get us towards? Where's the 200-week moving average? All these different questions start kind of coming into my mind, right? And so as we think about overall market dynamics here, I love the question that you asked there, which is this more of a 2020 almost like flash crash dynamic? And unequivocally, that's the case, right? I mean, we're getting some of the most oversold readings that we've had since 2008 and also since the COVID collapse, right? And obviously, COVID is such a unique exception because it was really caused by this exogenous variable and the government's reaction to, lockdowns from a global health pandemic. And so from that standpoint, right, what we're currently experiencing right now is the market pricing in the higher probability of a recession due specifically to tariffs. Because if we look at all the hard data, unemployment rate at 4.2%, the 155,000 jobs created in the month of March, ADP private payrolls continuing to expand, wages continuing to grow, disinflation, all the hard data still looks really good, right? And so from that, I mean, not all of it, but the weight of the evidence. And so in that kind of dynamic now, right, the market is just looking at all of the soft data, the survey data, the sentiment data, CEO confidence, consumer inflation expectations, all these different dynamics and saying, man, all the soft data is really bad. Is that actually going to trickle into the hard data in the coming months and quarters? and cause that recession. I was looking at betting market probabilities this morning, 68% chance of a recession in the United States this year. That's for 2025.
Wow.
I mean, at the beginning of this year, it was at 20%, right? And so the market is clearly actively pricing in those higher recession probabilities. In my mind, though, right, you know, this to me still in a lot of ways feels like 2018 from the perspective of the fundamental catalyst being the tariff, being the trade war, where the Fed is at in terms of the monetary policy, reaction function, so on and so forth. And so, you know, a lot of people have been speculating, are we going to get the Trump put or the Powell put, and which one is going to come first? Maybe today we just had Trump show us his cards, right? But this is what makes it so difficult. Like, we could wake up tomorrow and he's saying, you know what, tariffs are back on the table, right? We're putting 50% tariffs on everybody across. Like, it's just so difficult, right?
It really is. So how are you navigating, right? I mean, how are you shifting your analysis? And I know you look at a lot of data points. I know that for a fact. And so are you taking everything with a grain of salt? Because at the end of the day, literally, we can sit here and we can analyze tons of data. And to your point, Trump comes out tomorrow and says, you know what? Everyone's, you know, it's pretty fair. We're going to start we're dropping all tariffs. And then all of a sudden, Bitcoin's at 92,000. The S&P, Dow Jones is up another 10, 12%. So how are you navigating as an investor and an analyst? And you have your newsletter gets, I think you have like close to 14,000 people that get it and read it. How are you kind of navigating your way through everything going on with someone like Trump who could literally throw a grenade in the middle of everything?
So I published about a month ago that we've officially transitioned from a buy the dip environment to a sell the rip environment. And so I think how I kind of generally feel about things right now, maybe I'll be proven wrong on this, but how I feel and how I'm going to be positioning myself is if we get that reacceleration back to the upside, both in terms of equities and in terms of BTC. I don't own any alts right now. So I'm only positioned in Bitcoin. It's my largest portfolio holding. It's 70% of my liquid assets. And then the rest is in cash and equities, mostly in large cap tech. From that standpoint, if we get a reacceleration back to the upside, then I will be reducing overall exposure, probably between 10 and 30%, raising some cash, because I generally believe that until we see a significant improvement in a lot of these intermarket relationships, notably thinking about credit spreads, looking at the VIX, looking at the relationship between consumer discretionary stocks versus equal weight consumer staple stocks. This one's really important, looking at high beta versus low volatility stocks. If we're seeing a fundamental improvement in these kinds of data points, then I will say we are now back in a buy the dip environment. Again, I've been wrong so many times as an investor, especially, and as an analyst. We cannot be afraid of being wrong. There's nothing wrong with being wrong, but there is something wrong about staying wrong, right? And so if the data does shift, I'll buy back my exposure. But for right now, I think fundamentally we're in a sell the rip environment. And so even in that context, over the course of this decline that we've experienced in the past month and a half, I haven't bought any BTC. I haven't bought any equities. And I'm essentially putting my money where my mouth is. I'm putting my actions behind my analysis. Or maybe I should say it this way. I'm putting my analysis behind my, whichever way it goes, either way. And so from that standpoint, right, I'm just sitting on my hands here and I'm waiting for that sell the rip environment in order to reduce marginally some exposure, right? And so from that standpoint, I'm not going to be selling a lot, but I'm going to be selling some so that if I am wrong and we continue in this bull market environment, and the next thing we know, Bitcoin's at 135,000. If I sold 10% of my Bitcoin, it's not going to be a game changer for me, right? But if we go into an extended bear market from that mini sell the rip environment and Bitcoin falls back down to 40,000, I'm going to be happy with myself that I sold that 10%.
I'm so happy you said that because, and this is coming from like an anecdotal standpoint from me personally, when I first got into investing in crypto and Bitcoin is you're afraid to take profit when it's going up because you're like, well, it looks like it's going to keep going higher and keep going higher. And then you end up round tripping the whole bag. There is nothing wrong with pulling 20%, being completely wrong. Like, the old saying, no one goes broke taking profit. But, I will say you did mess up one place here, Caleb. You said you own no altcoins. You would have had some fart coin, my dude. That thing is up 31.5% on the day. Weekly, 43% gainer, outbeating everything, including Bitcoin and Wall Street. And so don't turn your back on all the memes,
That's the real safe haven asset inflation hedge right there, right? Throw out Bitcoin and have the full allocation of fart coin. Why not?
This space sometimes doesn't make sense to me. Caleb, I want to share with you one of your posts on X. This is my, you posted, this is my favorite accumulation signal. It hasn't flashed yet, not for Bitcoin or the stock market, but you need to be ready. Now, I know this is part of your Substack, and if you don't want to share what that accumulation signal is because you want to be respectful,
it's free. It's a free report. Everyone has access to it. It went out to, yeah. So this is it's the 18-month Williams %R oscillator. So, from that standpoint, why am I looking at 18 months? 18 months comes out perfectly to a year and a half, right? So it really isn't rocket science. Am I able to share my screen?
Yeah, absolutely. You should have a button that looks like a computer screen.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, go for it.
Are you able to see this?
Yeah, beautiful. Perfect.
Perfect. All right, awesome. So this is Bitcoin monthly candles. And in the lower pane here, I've added the 18 length Williams %R. And so because we're applying this onto monthly candles, 18 gives us a year and a half of price data. And so what we can see objectively here from this chart is that, the accumulation signal really begins when the 18-month Williams %R oscillator crosses below that lower bound and officially becomes oversold. And so this was a data point that I was highlighting and observing in real time in 2022 and talking about this. I mean, here's the tweet in July of 2022, July 25th. I highlighted how this indicator was officially flashing. We've entered this accumulation signal, so on and so forth, and that these periods last for several months. And so in the analysis that I shared today, I observed the fact that, during the last accumulation signal, Bitcoin was ranging between 15,500 and 28,300 over a 10-month period. And so from that standpoint, it's unequivocally clear if you were buying 15,500 and 28K, I mean, you had a hell of a bull market, right? I mean, there's no secret there. And so I think this indicator has not flashed yet. If and when it does happen, I think it would once again be further confirmation that we are in a severe bear market. If we look at when the signal is flashed in past bear markets, it occurs, after we've already fallen more than 50%. And so based on where this indicator is trading now, I'm generally expecting that oversold indicator is going to flash right around the time we hit the 200-week exponential moving average and the simple moving average in red. And so, unequivocally, this has been bear market lows throughout history, even including COVID. The 2022 bear market was really the only time that we actually fell range, right? And so right now, that range is currently measured right at 45,500 to 50,000. And so from that standpoint, I think if we get down there, that's a load up the truck moment. And so I like to call my shots before I take them. And so from that standpoint, I'm just generally interpreting that as, hey, if we get down there, I think everyone should be ready for this.
Yeah. I like that. Also playing basketball, I played basketball. If you don't call a bank shot, it doesn't count if you hit it off the backboard. Caleb, I want to pivot this conversation to the treasuries. People are pointing to this and saying treasury market is what's really going to push the Jerome Powell over the edge of cutting rates. And I'm not saying that's what I think. The majority of people are thinking, but again, one of your posts, I'm still taking the other side of this. And you were referencing this post from Walter Bloomberg. Traders see more than a 60% chance the Fed will start interest rate cuts in May. The CME says is 35.65 for a cut versus a stay being the latter. It's the same reason I faded cuts, any talks of cuts in the first half of 2024. And you think it's going to come, or you thought it was going to come in the second half of 2024, which it did. What are your thoughts on what we're seeing in the treasuries market? Literally everything, maybe not right now, but 10-year rallied, the 30-year rallied, the 5-year, the 1 year, the 3 month, they all rallied. And so maybe for the people listening who don't understand the negative effects that can have on the economy, can you explain that? And then what are your thoughts on the Fed? And do we need the Fed to cut rates and start pumping liquidity for us to have a really blow off top market like we're used to?
I don't think we need the Fed. I mean, look, right now, it's unequivocal, right? What's driving the market has much less to do with the Fed and much more to do with the White House, right? And so, I think that's going to come first, right? Is what's happening with Trump, what's happening with tariffs, and what's happening fundamentally with the hard macroeconomic data, looking specifically at the labor market. I think the Fed should cut. I don't think that they will cut in May, though. And I think that, generally speaking, I'm not a Keynesian economist by any sense of the imagination, but there's some validity to this perspective in this school of thought, which is that as economic growth slows down, inflation should cool off, right? Because it represents lower levels of demand. And so from that standpoint, I think more so than anything else, these tariffs are going to have much more of a actually disinflationary impact than they are going to have an inflationary impact, because I think right now the market is much more concerned with growth than anything else. And so as that growth is going to come down, I mean, the whole thing about this though, right? It's like, it's such a moot point based off what's just come out into the markets over the course of the last hour, which is Trump saying he's taking all the tariffs off of these foreign countries except for China, right? Yeah. So, you know, from that standpoint, it's kind of bewildering. And so I think generally, right, the way that I'm looking at monetary policy dynamics from the Fed specifically is what's happening with the 3-month Treasury yield, what's happening with the 6-month Treasury yield. And right now, they're not saying to expect any rate cuts for at least a few months. And so that's why I think personally May is off the table. A lot of people have been talking about May. And the reason why is because the hard macroeconomic data still looks really good, right? Then maybe a lot of that data changes and deteriorates over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks. And maybe it will. I don't expect it to, but maybe it will. And even still, I don't think that the Fed would necessarily cut in that environment. So I think that more so than anything else, my expectations are that the Fed is probably going to announce officially that they're ending the QT program. I know that they came out in the last meeting and basically said they're going to be tapering QT. But the next step, right, is they move in increments, is that they're officially going to end the QT program, at which point in the next meeting, I think that they're going to cut interest rates by another quarter basis point. So that's my general expectation right there. The Treasury market, though, overall is seemingly holding up just fine. I'd be much more concerned about international treasuries than I would about U.S. treasuries. But I'm really only paying attention to the Treasury market insofar as trying to forecast Fed policy. And so based on that, the 3-month Treasury yield, the 6-month Treasury yield, these are still saying that, you know, we're not going to see a cut in May.
Yeah. Caleb, I'm curious. What are your thoughts on Trump here telling us this morning, great time to buy, and then 3 hours later saying there's a 90-day tariff pause? I think he was, is there some cabal? You know, the cabal's in crypto. Is there a KOL cabal at the White House? What do you think?
It'd be the biggest insider trading scandal of all time if it was, right? I mean, who knows? I really try not to pay attention to that stuff, right? So who knows? I certainly didn't buy anything this morning. So at least, you know, and I certainly wouldn't, even if I was in the mood to buy, right? If all my analysis got thrown out of the window, seeing Trump's tweet would not be the catalyst for making me buy things. I mean, last time I remember, Eric Trump tweeted that now's a great time to buy Ethereum. That was like a month and a half ago.
He said, "Thank me later." Have you thanked him? Right? Have you thanked him?
Please, no, I have not. No, I have not thanked Eric Trump. Maybe I'll give him a call.
I thanked him in my head, but there was a few cuss words thrown in there as well. Caleb, before I let you go, I know you mentioned you don't really have any alts, but if I can ask you your thoughts on what we're seeing with Ethereum. Do you think that ETH is, and I don't know if you have any opinion on ETH, but ETH ran as a retail chain, DeFi in 2018, 2021. Now it seems more institutions or stable coins, but the institutions aren't really showing interest, at least from Wall Street and the ETF standpoint. The staking should be coming. I think that'll bring a little bit, but what's your thesis? Do you look at Ethereum as an undervalued blockchain or cryptocurrency, or do you think it's just best to go with Bitcoin?
So maybe like a month and a half ago, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I said something along the lines of Ethereum is either the greatest value opportunity in the history of cryptocurrency, or this thing is just going to continue to plummet as it has been for basically, you know, at least the past 2.5 years, especially on a relative basis versus BTC. And, you know, I looked at the data again this morning. ETH BTC is down 46% year to date.
Crazy.
Year to date, it's down 46% relative to BTC. That's insanity, right?
3 months.
And so, yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think that the Solanas of the world, the Suis of the world, the Ripples of the world have done a much better job in terms of capturing attention within the cryptocurrency ecosystem from an altcoin perspective. And, you know, my general view is that fundamentals in crypto is a stretch, right? And so from that standpoint, cryptocurrency valuations are much more of a function of attention and price action, right? Just simply following technicals. And in that kind of environment, I'd much rather own something like a Solana or a Ripple or a Sui instead of Ethereum. And if you pull up the charts of those things on a relative basis, they've all outperformed Ethereum. Yep. Now we can have a debate about whether or not they've outperformed Bitcoin. And the answer actually is no, they haven't, especially not over the course of the past year. And so now we have an even bigger debate on our hands. Are we actually going to, rotate our ETH bags into SUI, or should we just skip SUI and go all in on BTC? It's this really strange dilemma. I will say from my standpoint, I sold all my Ethereum position over 3,000 at some point last year. And so I've been out of that now for quite a while. And I have no intention of buying it back. At least not until the chart improves dramatically.
Yeah, the chart is not. I mean, we're at lows we're at like 2023 levels, right? So, but every person,
by the way,
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just saying so many altcoins are actually back at their 2022 and 2023 lows. I mean, this has been insane. If we look at a chart of like Bitcoin dominance, it's basically at cycle highs right now, trading at the highest levels, I think, since early 2021. And so, it's been a severe market environment. And I think that really contributes also to the fact that sentiment has been so beaten up, is because a lot of investors still are actually under allocated to Bitcoin, which is the king of the entire space. It's why we're all here. Without Bitcoin, all this other stuff, likely wouldn't exist. 99% chance, right? And so, it's really amazing actually that so many investors are so under allocated to Bitcoin. And hopefully, I think, again, it's okay to be wrong. If you were over allocated to altcoins, it's okay, right? You made a mistake, but I think admitting that mistake and at least trying to adjust for it, you have to make that compensation on the back end, right? So, again, you can dig your head in the sand and pretend like Bitcoin isn't outperforming everything else, or you can just hop on the bandwagon.
Yeah. That question, the ETH question I pose to everyone, 90% of people are torn. Like, it's either a great opportunity or this thing's going to zero. I lean towards it's a great opportunity. I can't look past the market share that Ethereum has as a network over RWAs and institutions. Sure. But if that changes, retail is not going to ETH. So if the institutions don't either, then ETH is definitely screwed. Caleb, before I let you go, any parting words, my friend? We do have the link to your Cubic Analytics Substack pinned to the top of the top of the chat. So if you guys want more Caleb, this guy's stuff is A1. And let me tell you, it's really, really good. Great insight. He's very active. I'd highly recommend you also go follow him on X. But anything else you kind of want to highlight, Caleb, before we let you go? Any place else that you post content, or if people want more of you, where they can find you?
No, I mean, go check me out on Substack for sure. That's where I'm really, putting out all my in-depth, extensive analysis. I'm posting on there every week for free, right? So every Saturday, you're going to receive free research for me. Today's report that I published was really like an emergency report. I think this is something that everyone should be paying attention to. Again, that was why you need my favorite accumulation indicator. And so, go check it out over there. I have about 14,000 investors who are signed up. Come get a sample for my research. If anything I said today resonates with you, fantastic. I would like to just share one final chart with you guys. Please, right? I know I sound so bearish. I know I sound so hesitant. I know I sound so defensive. But from my standpoint, right, it's all going to come down to one very simple indicator for BTC right now, and that's the 200-day moving average cloud. So a lot of investors look at the EMA. Some look at only the SMA. Some prefer one versus the other. Many years ago, when I was first learning about technical analysis, I was like, I don't know which one to use, so I'm just going to use them both, right? So again, on this chart, I have the 200-day exponential moving average in blue, the simple moving average in red. And one thing that we know unequivocally, objectively about markets and about price is that uptrends are characterized by the price of an asset trading above its moving average. We could see very clearly getting above the 200-day helped to ignite this really strong bull market run, basically going from 63,000 all the way up to 109K, right? Obviously, we can be choppy through this range, but if you want to get long above and then get out below, that's how you get a bias, right? Are we above or below the 200-day moving average? And so where are we today? We're decisively below it. It just so happens that this descending trend line that I shared on X earlier today lines up almost perfectly with where that 200-day moving average cloud is right now. And so until proven otherwise, so long as Bitcoin trades below its 200-day moving average cloud, I'm going to be super defensive. I'm not going to be looking to DCA here until we see substantially more downside come into the market. And look, if we get back above that 200-day moving average cloud, I'll buy back even more exposure, right? So the only conditions I'm going to be waiting for to buy more BTC are substantially lower prices or substantially higher prices. As I look at this chart right now, it really looks like it's basically in no man's land to me. And so from that standpoint, again, the line in the sand is, can Bitcoin get a decisive breakout above 87,000, and can it stay above 87,000? It's one thing to break above the moving average cloud. It's another thing to stay above it. And so from that standpoint, we just got to see that breakout. If we get it, I'm going to be sounding super bullish again. Again, I change my mind all the time. I'm wrong frequently, but having a key invalidation criteria is what this is all about. Changing your mind, staying adaptive, staying flexible, letting the market be much smarter than me. I don't need to be some hyper genius. I just need to be aligned with trends. And until we see Bitcoin above its 200-day moving average cloud, right now it's in a downtrend, right? It's just the objective truth. So we need to see a substantial improvement there. And then I'm happy to come on the show and I'll be super bullish, but we just got to get that evidence first.
Well, we want to bring you on the show regardless whether you're bullish or bearish, because we just love your insight. But I agree with you, Caleb. If you're a serious investor or a serious analyst, you have to be able to move with new information that's presented to you. The problem is people rarely ever can say, you know what, maybe I missed something or I was wrong, or no, we're still in the bear market. They got that confirmation bias. So I love the fact that, and I like to stay that way as well. If my thesis is invalidated, tomorrow I can come in here and say, hey, I actually, Ethereum is trash. I'm selling all of it if the information for my thesis changes. One more thing before I let you go, only because you brought up the 200-day moving average. This is the 200 MA ribbon. This is the Dow trading below, SPX trading below, and the NASDAQ all trading below the 200-day moving averages. Which, by the way, look at that candle on the freaking Dow Jones. My God. Officially
Crazy.
About 40,000 again. Guys, we were at 36.6. We were at 36.6 on the Dow Jones. On Monday. That is a massive move, my friends. And so curious to see how things will play out. Caleb, we've kept you on longer than we said we were going to. We appreciate your time. We love your insight. Thank you so much, brother. And we look forward to bringing you on again.
See you guys soon, man. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Guys, Caleb is one of my favorite analysts. Please go follow him on X. You'll get a lot of great insight and information. And then his Substack, as he mentioned, he does put out free stuff in there. But the paid version is awesome as well. You guys will get a lot of great insight. The amount of charts and data that is out there to decipher is so much. And when you got someone who's really good at it and literally spends hours a day on it, and you get it in a nice little simple format in an email to you, go do it. It's worth it. So a big thank you to Caleb for joining us today. I do want to take a peek at the markets yet again. Please tell me, I think BTC crossed over 82K. Let's take a peek here. 82.5 for BTC. Oh my God, look at you go, Ethereum. I hope Rob's still watching here. Because my buddy ETH, it came home, now it went out again. You know those memes, ETH is coming home?
Buddy heat.
I'm coming home. Okay. Well, I've talked about this on my trading show, which, by the way, sorry about yesterday. Wasn't able to go live. I will be going live today at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. We talked about, hey, what rises or what's falling must rise, must break to the upside. But ETH is like the only asset ever to see a falling channel that not breaks to the upside. But here we are. We're seeing a nice rally out of ETH. We can even go to the lower time frame on the 15-minute. You're seeing momentum explode, money flow explode, VWAP exploded. Now it's trending down. Is on again on the 30-minute. And RSI and Stochastic both hit oversold levels. We go to the 1 hour here for ETH. You can see, at least on the 1 hour, just got a crossover on the money flow to the upside. Momentum waves are continuing to expand. And then that VWAP, it was starting to come down, but it looks like we're on the up and up again. And so again, I'm kind of in Caleb's camp. Just proceed with caution. Don't get too up. Don't get too down. We'll see how long this lasts with someone like President Trump in office and what they're kind of doing to shake up the global economy. You never know what can happen. And so be prepared for anything. And with that being said, my friends, that'll do it for the show today. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you. Come join me at 2 p.m. Pacific right here on this channel where we do our trading and fundamental analysis show where we only cover charts and fundamental analysis of some of your favorite projects. With that being said, Rocco, you didn't wait for my tornado, bro.
Well, you were already in tornadoes. You were in a tornado mood. Want me to stop it?
Big thank you to all of you and big thank you to Caleb for joining. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Sin City, crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in. For big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I split the game, but they gave it. Named according to your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming hola till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I